very good afternoon to a man who brings a degree of panache and quality to an otherwise bawdry mess that is the Jeremy Kyle Drive Time Show. A very good afternoon to Lord Spence of Benedict. How are you, Benedict?
I'm well, thank you, Jeremy. Many happy returns, by the way.
Yeah, old git. Did you see this? You'll love this, B. You'll absolutely love this. If you're not watching online, you won't be able to see this. But that, my friend, is a student rail card. I mean, a senior student. Just got that wrong. A senior rail card, my friend.
I do like visual cues on radio. It really works well, doesn't it?
I'll give you another visual cue.
Go for it. Aha.
That's the mug saying I am 59 with the finger. Benedict Spence, let's start with this state visit. I only joke. I mean, obviously, they're our oldest allies who have always been there for us. No. They're our oldest allies who give us value for money. No. Emmanuel Macron and his wife arrived today, and many people, quite rightly, watched the introduction of William and Catherine welcoming Keir Starmer. He's now addressing Parliament, pontificating about Gaza and the Middle East, and not really addressing because nobody will have the balls to front him out. £771 million, Chris Phipps says we've paid in the last year to stop a few migrants on land and absolutely none at sea. I don't mean to be rude to Sunak or anybody who instigated this, but you've taken many occasions to tell me the same thing. With that skint, we can't even afford the interest on the money that we owe. What the hell are we doing giving France £750+ million, £750 million, Benedict, to do absolutely jack when you could use that money to build 5 prisons, just out of interest?
You could build prisons with it. You could employ border force officials with it. You could have even given it to a small African country, and who knows, maybe they'd have taken some of these people. I do find it very amusing that we were told by all and sundry, oh no, the Rwanda scheme is a complete waste of money. But the idea of giving France money to do even less than what the Rwandans were promising to do, no, that's just sensible. That's absolutely fine. Honestly,
they're laughing at us, aren't they, bud?
Of course they are. Of course they are. And every time something goes wrong like this, every time we go, oh, this is a disaster, please help, they shrug and go, but the Brexit, it makes things very difficult. And honestly...
Sorry, what was that?
That was a French accent. That was me doing a French accent.
Fantastic, me old son, that was. Have you been to France?
I've had to drive through it on my way to places I'd rather be before, yes.
Yes, I have to drive through it on the way to the chateau in the middle of the vineyard.
If one wishes to go to the Amalfi Coast, sometimes France is in the way.
Yeah, that's true.
If you want to go to those better places.
I find it, I think, like so many things at the moment, I think because we are in a situation in this country where so many people are struggling, the lefties would say, well, not like you are if you're in the middle of an no, not like you are in the middle of an earthquake in the wherever. But the fact is, the British people are struggling. And when they hear about that, you can't see a doctor, you can't see a dentist, we can't give you this, we can't give you that. We're going to give it to migrants. And by the way, we're going to give France £750 million that would go a long way to dealing with a lot of problems. But that's the way that we are. Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense at all.
None of this makes sense. We're under no obligation to take in all and sundry from around the world, utilising laws that were drawn up in the aftermath of the First and Second World Wars for dispossessed European populations who were only ever going to be moved on temporary bases. This idea that we need to take everybody from all around the world permanently, and we need to stick them up in accommodation, and we need to pay for them to get all the things that we do as well. And of course, as you point out rightly, whilst we're not able to afford to give these things to our own people, whilst we have no economic growth, again, because the same people who sit there and go, oh, borders, that's just a construct, they're not real, you should let everybody in, whether or not they actually want to be British or whether or not they want to sponge, those are the same people that also sit there and go, oh, growth, that's optional. But you know what's absolutely important is not using electricity in case, I don't know, the sky falls in or something like that.
Apparently, Macron
running this country.
Breaking news on Talk. Breaking news. Emmanuel Macron has just said, we will make tangible... Oh, that's Starmer. We will make tangible results on migration. What does that mean? We'll make tangible results. What does that exactly mean? And I'd also like to point out that this is an unconfirmed report. This is not confirmed, but apparently Emmanuel Macron allegedly arrived by boat earlier. He was met by Starmer at Dover. He was given a mobile phone, a Monzo bank card, and he's currently in a 5-star hotel paid for by you and me, Benedict. Isn't that lovely? It's lovely there, isn't it?
You can just imagine him getting there going, oh, what is this? I expected a lot better. And Starmer going, well, this is all we can afford right now. We extend it to all of our most important guests.
What does that mean, though, mate? Seriously, we will make tangible results on migration. What does that mean?
If you're France, it means we will make a profit on taking money from you to do not very much except send our migrants onto you. That's what France is saying. We will make tangible progress on this, and we're sat and they're going, oh yes, that sounds great. Nobody's actually going to sort of dive into the details of what it involves. Again, the only way you will stop this is if you have mechanisms that mean that there isn't an incentive to come. For as long as there is an incentive to come, for as long as we continue the insane policies that we have when people already get to this country, of giving them all of these things, of letting them in, for as long as those things exist and there are not mechanisms to arrest people, as you say, to build prisons, to arrest them, because the first thing they do when they enter the country is break the law, and to deport them straight away. Until that's in place, it doesn't matter how many deals you strike with France or Albania to process their applications or whatever, they're going to keep taking their chances. They're going to keep coming because they know, odds are, once they're here, they'll get to stay here.
It's interesting, this from Rob in Newcastle. I'll read this to you, Benedict. He says, it just shows you how out of touch Starmer is. Probably the most disliked leader of a country, apart from Putin, is undoubtedly Macron. He is making a joke of everyone in this country and smiling as he does it. They want rid and we bend over and oblige by offering free loads of stuff the French would never give. That all equates, of course, to an all-singing, dancing state visit. It's like watching a Carry-On film. We look stupider again and again on the bloody world stage. He's right, isn't he?
Well, yes, Macron is very unpopular. Even his wife takes a swing at him every now and then. You know, that's how well he's going down on that side of the channel. But
I think she was telling him off because he hadn't done his homework. I could be wrong.
It could be. It could be one of those things. All those years later, she suddenly just remembered, hang on a second, there's an assignment you didn't fulfill.
Yes, she is. You didn't do that dissertation on what makes a good politician. I don't think it's going to go away. On a serious note, many things now that we cover on this station, that you see on other news stations that haven't been talked about. You know, the mainstream media wouldn't talk about this. Oh, you can't criticise our greatest ally. Our greatest ally, apparently, I don't think it's France. France has always been very selfish. I get the people who will say to you, be like, you know, they're only doing what we should be doing, but we're not soft. Maybe they're getting 750 million out of us and we should be the same, but I think we're stuck. I think the United Kingdom is stuck still in this. We have to apologise for the past. We have to be seen as the morally greatest in the world, but we're skint. And we're also now governed by a guy. Somebody made a comment earlier. I'd love your take on this. He'll never leave the ECHR because all of his mates, his left-wing lawyer mates, will suffer as a result of that. And let's be honest, when he gets chucked out in 4 years' time, he'll probably want to become one of them abroad anyway on a big salary. So maybe that's the reality of the situation. I don't know, but it's wrong. It's got to be seen as wrong, hasn't it?
The first thing to say is we only started valuing France as an ally when a man called Otto von Bismarck created a country called Germany, and we realised that there were bigger problems and it was a nice thing to have a barrier in between us and that new country.
Yeah.
On the subject of whether or not we will ever move on from this Labour government is not going to be the one that brings the change that they promised that they would and that many people did hope but secretly didn't think would happen. They're not going to be the ones to do it. The question then has to be who is going to be next. I'm sorry to say it is going to be a long old wait to see whether or not it is a reform government, whether or not it is a coalition government, or goodness knows, it could even be another Labour minority government. We don't actually know yet. But that is the question. You need to be looking. People need to be looking at what is going to come next. They need to be serious about holding reform's feet to the fire whilst they're polling as well as they are. We need to know, is the attitude going to be, yes, we're going to leave this thing? And if so, because this is crucial, what is going to replace it? Because frankly, I don't trust the bureaucrats and the lawyers in this country to come up with something better than the ECHR, given the absolute mess that they've already made of our Brexit and our post-European, our post-Brexit relations with the European Union. You need to ask those questions of reform. You also need to ask those questions of the Conservatives, because there is every chance that they could play kingmakers at the next election, or indeed that they could stop reform from getting majority. Those are the questions that need to be asked. And, you know, it's depressing to say it's going to be a long 4 years. And even then, if reform, which, you know, we hear Farage saying lots of things, oh, this thing is impossible, that thing's impossible, we need to just focus on these small things like getting the woke out of local councils. If that's what we're being offered, I'm not sure that things are going to get better.
I couldn't agree more. We have I said to Richard Tice on the show later, I want reform to say and definitively say we're going to leave the ECHR, whatever legal rulings, whatever the blob try and do. That is it. There has to be a seismic change. Can I just I don't want to try and invade your privacy, but as I look behind you at your lounge there, if you're not watching on television, you've got a little window. It's a bit like a cell. Have you seen the story today in the newspapers? This is beyond impossible. Criminals in Britain's jails are spending their sentences getting high and watching daytime TV. I'll obviously make the joke again, it's not what it was. A menu of substances, including cannabis, cocaine and steroids, are on offer. This is from His Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons, Charlie Taylor. He must know, as Peter Blexley says, drones used by criminal gangs are so accurate they can deliver drugs and weapons, including zombie knives, to your cell window. What's the point in going to prison, for Christ's sake, anymore in this country?
And I'm afraid to say that this is an attitude problem within government. Actually, it is not impossible to make prisons more secure. It is not impossible to build prisons in a very short space of time that are up to standard. Our government chooses not to. And ultimately, that's all you need to know. And again, I'm not just going to lay this at the blame of the Labour Party.
No.
14 years of the party of law and order. 14 years of Conservatives closing prisons, allowing them to fall into disrepair. Subcontracting things out to private companies like G4S and Serco that failed to deliver prisoners to the right prisons and court cases and that at the cost of millions to the taxpayer. Both major parties. The fundamental role of a government, first and foremost, is security of your border and everything inside.
Absolutely, and that's why. And I have said this as much as anybody else. In fact, more than most people. Not Mikey, but it was an easy target, the military and the police. They thought, whilst the Cold War and everything was going on. The truth of the matter is, you're right. The first rule of any government is protect your borders and to protect your people. Does it feel like they're protecting people in main cities when the police aren't even in charge? There's a fear. There's a fear of criminals, not a fear of the police. I'm completely with you. Breaking news, by the way, just confirmed by the BBC. Gregg Wallace has indeed been sacked as a MasterChef presenter following an inquiry into his alleged misconduct by production company Banijay. So that's Gregg Wallace gone from the BBC. Thought I'd drop that in. I'm sure you're desperately keen to know that. Meanwhile, Macron is still speaking to Parliament. I've asked if you want to hear it. There doesn't seem an awful lot of enthusiasm. Are you OK to take a call with me, Mr. Spence?
Yeah, go for it, as long as it's not from Gregg Wallace.
No, it's not Gregg Wallace. No, we've cut him off. Let's go to Mike in Warwickshire. Mike, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Not bad, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Gregg Wallace. Benedict Spence is with us. What do you want to say, pal?
Well, it's interesting that they can find no end of money to give to the French, and then they can spend no end of money on illegal migrants coming to this country and give them trampoline lessons and whatever else. And yet the businesses which have been damaged and continue to be damaged by COVID get no help. Now, and they won't get people to go back into the office or do any of that stuff. Now, as a consequence, I've just sold my business because it had no future. And it had no future because this government have done nothing but pile misery and cost onto business owners in the private sector who create wealth for this country and taxes, and they just don't want to know us at all. All they want to do is just drive us into the dust. And I've seen business after business and sector after sector, and this has been an ongoing issue now. And yet, you can still find money to give to migrants.
Couldn't agree more. Can I just ask you, you don't have to tell me, what was your business, mate?
I was in the office products industry, and the sales will be about 20% down as a result of COVID. They still weren't on the rise because the public sector, who were all underpaid, apparently, they were all working from home. So in London, all the offices had nobody in them.
Really interesting. Benedict, responding to Mike's call there?
I mean, there are so many things that the government should be prioritising that it isn't. I mean, another very good example of where apparently we have lots of money is the Chagos Islands deal, where we're able to afford to give Mauritius enough money to wipe out its national debt.
And Michael loved this. Not only did they wipe out their national debt, mate, they managed to tell all Mauritian workers, you don't have to pay income tax free. Try telling that to the British people. It's a joke, man.
Well, try telling that to somebody who runs a pub. A friend of mine runs a pub in the Cotswolds. And
Jeremy Clarkson?
No, it's not him, no. And the extra costs on his pub, because it's a fairly sizable pub, is £80,000 a year. Where'd you find that from?
I agree, mate. And this is what, what Benedict thinks, but this is what really does my head in when they talk about growth. Growth comes from small and medium-sized businesses. It doesn't come from crushing them with NI and workers' rights and all that. Mikey, thank you so much indeed. Benedict, just finally, very quickly, talked about state of prisons, absolute disgrace. You'd build more. We've talked about Macron. I've asked if people want to hear Oh, he's finished. What a shame that is. I want my money back. What do you make of this? We talked about this a lot. I did this on JK Live. The prison, the post office situation today. A bombshell report has just really lambasted again the post office. 13 people have committed suicide. Hundreds of people, their liberty taken away unjustly. The post office today issuing another unreserved apology, calling it a shameful period in our history. I've listened to that amazing Alan Bates, watched the drama on ITV. What a man he is. And we talk about compensation. Am I right or am I wrong? People need to go to jail. This is probably one of the biggest and most shameful instances in our history, along with the rape gangs, to be fair.
You're right, but even if they were sentenced to prison, there's a good chance they might not spend any time in prison. The trajectory the things are currently going. I think the post office scandal, like so many scandals, be it infected blood, be it Hillsborough, be it all sorts of things. What Britain does is we have scandals, we have appalling things that happen. They happen slowly over a period of time. Not enough people speak up. And then when they are discovered, first and foremost, you have the attempts at the cover-up. Then you have the foot dragging. Then you have the inquiry. And then you have the platitudes about lessons will be learned. And two things end up happening. Lessons, A, are never learned. And B, the people that are wronged never really get any justice. Because the sheer length of time that it takes to get from point A to point B in this country is appalling. And I'm afraid to say this is just one in a number of scandals that we've had. And trust me, there are other scandals that will come out in the woodwork and the same thing will happen.
God, it's great to live here, isn't it? It's great to be proud of being British and to look forward to each and every day.
Could live in the countryside. It would be much nicer out there.
Are you off Gregg shooting later? What are you doing this afternoon? Walking the dog?
It's not really the season for that yet, is it?
Completely put me into my place. Thank you very much indeed. Lord Spence of Benedictum.